I try to tell y'all, all these bus riders, they don't mean nothing to me. If you ain't driving the bus, don't walk around talking about you're a champion. If you riding the bus, I don't want to hear it. Come on, Shaq, tell them. All these guys walk around with these championship rings. Hey, y'all bus riders. But let me
That's
tell you
two in a
something.
row, Chuck.
When you the bus driver and you got all that pressure where you have to play well or you're going to get the blame, that's a different animal.
The legacy of one Kevin Durant has many twists, turns, and just flat out surprises that will floor you. But I don't think anyone could have expected his career post Golden State would turn out like this. As looking back at the 2018 finals, after winning his second straight championship, as was MVP, if you asked me in that moment, would KD after that have at least one championship, I would have said of course. And the idea of him having zero in the next 5 years, I would have called you crazy on the spot and you committed to a mental hospital. As back in 2018, pre-injury Kevin Durant was on top of the world. And one championship then would have been the bare minimum of expectations, with two being fairly likely. Now, unfortunately for Kevin Durant, the past 5 years have been an absolute nightmare with awful luck, injuries, and teammates. As joining Kyrie in Brooklyn, I would say in hindsight, was his first mistake. And both those guys having input on the coach, the roster, and basically being pseudo GMs with a death nail for that team. As both Kyrie and Kevin Durant on record signed off on James Harden and getting that trade from Houston. And with that trade, they gutted their depth, their shooting, and really all their defense, giving up Jarrett Allen as well as Karis LeVert. And as you guys know, that trio played roughly 10 games together, were a dumpster fire, and not successful in the NBA playoffs. So what happened a year later? James Harden once again was traded, this time to Philly, for the immortal Ben Simmons. And look, Ben Simmons is inept and awful NBA player. And he's so bad at this point, Team Australia doesn't want him on their Olympic team. And look, the big three duo of Ben Simmons, Kevin Durant, Kyrie, that team still had high expectations to make a deep playoff run. But per usual, they were all hurt, either not playing or playing poorly. So what happened? Kevin Durant yet again tried to jump ship, this time being traded to the Phoenix Suns. And by being traded to Phoenix, that move brought tons of hype. In the media's eyes, this Suns team was the favorite to make the NBA Finals, having Kevin Durant, Booker, CP3, and Ayton. At the very least, that team in that core should have made the Western Conference Finals, and them not doing that is indeed a massive failure and not a step towards success. And before I forget, Kevin Durant since Golden State has won a total of 2 playoff series, one in Brooklyn and one in Phoenix. For a player of Kevin Durant's caliber, that is pretty pathetic. And what has transpired the past 5 years, in my view and many, has proven Charles Barkley 100% right about Kevin Durant. As back a year ago, he was calling Kevin Durant a bus rider and the weakest superstar of all time. And one thing Charles echoed that many agreed with was that KD and Golden State were not the MVP or the leader of that team. And look, I agree with that. Yes, he won the MVPs in the finals, but the best overall player, most valuable, it was always Steph Curry. As even Kevin Durant himself said, back in Golden State, even OKC you could argue, he was not the leader of those teams. And when you get bounced by Giannis, Tatum, and Jokic in 3 straight years, while Steph Curry, your former teammate, is winning championships, and LeBron James, your rival, won a championship himself, and is now back in the West Finals, that is not a good look for you if you're KD. And one thing I do fear for Kevin Durant, when his career is finally over, the overall narrative around him will be that he wasn't a leader and he wasn't the guy on championship teams. Now look, he still has time to change that, but that narrative is going to stick with him for all of time, as LeBron James, Steph Curry, Giannis, even Kawhi got championships or a championship as the man of their team and the most valuable asset. And beyond those traits, what we've seen from Kevin Durant on the basketball court in the playoffs, for Kevin Durant standards, has been pretty lackluster these past 2 years. As both versus Boston and Denver, physical defense getting his airspace bothered Kevin Durant tremendously. In Oklahoma City, especially Golden State, we not once saw that in a playoff series. As looking at versus Denver, for the entire series, he shot 22% from behind the arc. And the final 2 games of this series, he averaged 24.5 points, 4.5 turnovers on 42% shooting from the field, and 0% from 3. And in Game 6, the final game, when it was over at halftime, at half Kevin Durant had 8 points on 2 of 11 shooting. Game 6 versus Denver, that game was dead at half, with Kevin Durant playing awful. And for the entire series, he was easily the 3rd best player on the court, behind Jokic and Booker, and quite frankly, it wasn't even close. Watching Kevin Durant in the post-Steph Curry era, you realize how back in Golden State, it was just so easy for him to score. It was almost spot-up shooting and going one-on-one. I'm not here to overpraise Steph Curry or discredit Kevin Durant. It's simply reality. Steph Curry's gravity, the attention he demands, it's out of this world at a LeBron James, Jokic type level. And when you have Kevin Durant, at worst a top 3 player, inserted on that team, it's a cheat code and just unfair for the NBA. And looking back at Charles Barkley and his comments, you can call him a hater, say he goes overboard, say whatever you want. But his actual message, what he's saying, is it really wrong? Objectively speaking, Kevin Durant is a top 15 player in NBA history. But at this point, with his whole body of work, I would argue, he's more of a great offensive weapon than a great number 1. Someone like a Dominique Wilkins or Carmelo, more than a Kobe or LeBron. As both Kobe and LeBron, they were great players like Kevin Durant, but they had leadership qualities that transcended that great play. It may sound harsh, but KD admittedly is not a leader. And things like that, they're big separators from him, someone like Steph Curry, LeBron, and the all-time greats. And to nail this point home, outside of Golden State, Kevin Durant has played 12 total seasons. In those 12 years, he's produced a single finals win. Ironically, in his first ever finals game. In over a decade stretch, minus Steph Curry, the best point guard, Klay Thompson, top 25 player, Draymond, the best defender, and Steve Curry, top 3 coach, his resume is pretty slim picking in terms of team success. And KD being 34 going on 35, being injury prone, this is the end of the line for the Kevin Durant era and his prime as a basketball player. He's still a top 10 player in the league, a great offensive talent, but being that guy on a championship team who can carry you to the West Finals, the NBA Finals, at this point, it is sad to say it, but he's just too old, too injury prone, and the playoffs, even Denver, was too physical for him. This guy, for his entire career, even now, was one of my favorite players. And it is sad to see him go out like this, kind of like I don't know what you call it, going out on a low note, I guess. It is really sad to see Kevin Durant going out like this. And for the Phoenix team, they're really boxed in, and what moves can they make? As Kevin Durant, he's not getting traded. CP3 is getting paid $30 million, and the free agent class is meh at best. Given that context, and Phoenix's depth being lackluster, the only way they fix this is by trading DeAndre Ayton for an absolute haul. But the problem is, DeAndre Ayton the past 2 years has been proven as a flawed player in the NBA playoffs. So, unfortunately, Kevin Durant, once again, has boxed himself on a team that is top-heavy, not defensive, and aging fast. Best of luck to Kevin Durant and Suns fans, but at this point, Charles Barkley has been proven right time and time again about this dude. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.